Good afternoon again. Welcome to an askSlim live informational webinar featuring a walkthrough of our new Level 1 services. Before we get started, I just need to take care of some housekeeping details here. All the information, as you know, on askSlim.com and our videos and our webinars are for educational purposes only. Information provided today should not be construed as investment or trading advice. Please consult your financial professionals before making any investment or trading decisions. askSlim live events are likely to be recorded, as this one is today. They're offered on our askSlim.com website from time to time and could be also offered for public viewing. We always act in ways to protect your identity. Still, we cannot guarantee that your identity is completely anonymous, so your participation in this event is acknowledgement that you understand and agree. If you have questions, you can refer to our terms, disclaimers, and full legal disclosure at askSlim.com. Okay, today's host, it's me, Matt Serpe. I'm a protege of Slim's. I've been thoroughly trained and coached by Slim for many, many years and have significant additional market experience. I'm part of the askSlim analyst team with RV and Slim. I'm also currently the COO and Director of Product Innovation. Our goal at askSlim is to bring active traders and investors all over the world the ultimate and professional grade technical analysis services, trade planning tools, and trader education. Our methodology is built around Slim's more than 5 decades of experience as a professional trader, technical analyst, coach, and mentor. As challenging in terms of the intense workload and focus that all this requires, we absolutely love what we do and bringing the information to our members. All right, so let's get started and jump in. Today's agenda, we're going to do a walkthrough of Level 1 services. We've recently revamped those services, so we're excited to share those services and also talk about them with many of our new members that we have. How many of you are new to askSlim that are attending today? If you could put your raise your hand. Oh, good. A number of you are. Great. Obviously, and even most importantly, we want to make sure that we get your question answered regarding our services, our chart analysis methodology, if you have them, the tools we have, our indicators, how to use our content, charts, and tools for trade planning and more. So make sure that you do bring those questions to me today. That's what today is all about. It would be great if you could indicate why you came so that I can make sure that I cover what you wanted to learn about or hear about or get those questions answered. There is a Q&A. So if you could please put your questions into the Q&A. There's also a chat. The Q&A is the place for the questions. That would be excellent. All right, why don't we test out that Q&A and just put a test in there, make sure that everybody knows where that is. And again, if you do have some questions now, or if you want to indicate why you came, please put those in. All right, so we're going to get started. I'm going to do the Level 1 walkthrough first, and then I'll probably pause as we complete certain sections of the Level 1 material and open it up for questions. Hopefully, going through the Level 1 will stimulate some of those questions. All right, we're going to cover how to access the askSlim content and services. We're going to look at our new trader workbench, our trader worksheets, the My Trades area where you can track your own trades that you've executed or you're looking to execute. We're looking also to take a look at our Slimulator momentum tracker, the stock index report, SIR weekly outlook, and the Spider ETF weekly review. All of these services are part of the Level 1 membership, and obviously they are available to all of our premium memberships. All right, we're going to start with accessing content. So all of you that are members have a dashboard, and in that dashboard, you're going to have content that is relevant to your membership level. So that is where you will find the services and content that are relevant to your membership level. So inside of the dashboard, you're going to see that we have askSlim videos. The askSlim videos are a sample of many of our or a number of our premium videos that we share with our level 1 members. Make sure to take a look at the Psychoanalysis Basics video. It's an excellent video that Slim recently put together. It's fantastic for those of you that are new to get an introduction into our core methodology. We also post in here our askSlim live replays that we do with the group with Slim, Arby, and myself. You can see that a recent one was posted here just a couple days ago. So make sure to take a look at those sample videos when you get a chance if you're new to the level 1 membership. All right, the askSlim Market Week Archive. That's where you'll find all of the past recordings of the Market Week show. So if you wanted to go back and take a look at one of those, you can take a look at that. That's in that Market Week archive area right here. All right, the S&P 500, the Spider ETF review. This comes out on a weekly basis. This comes out typically over the weekend. This is designed to provide traders and active investors with a broad technical picture of some of the key Spider Select sectors. So what we cover in this report is the XLE Energy, the XLF Financials, the XLI Industrials, the XLK Technology, the XLP Consumer Staple sectors. Those are the featured sectors that we cover in a deep dive technical review. And I will open up some of this so you can see it. Each one of these contains our annotated weekly and daily charts in here. All right, and make sure that, especially if you're on a laptop or if you are on a desktop, that you click so you can expand the chart so you can see that. And on the chart, what are you going to have? You are going to see our cycle work, so you can get a sense of the cycle timing for that specific sector. You'll also see key levels. So we have our key support and resistance levels, an anticipated forecast for the price action based on the current cycle configuration and phasing. So again, this was the weekly chart. So inside of the report, you have that weekly chart as well as the daily charts. So take a look at our daily chart here. And the daily chart, similar kind of theme here, where you have the cycle brackets on the bottom to give you a sense of the timing. It also features our Slim Ribbon PO. This is on the daily chart. You've heard Slim talk a lot about the Slim Ribbon PO. It's an excellent way to get a gauge for momentum. So the Slim Ribbon here, these are the colored candles. The colored candles are made up of 3 exponential moving averages that we have, the 8, the 13, and the 21. And we have put together a proprietary script for this so that you can download it to your Thinkorswim platform. That's what we have it on, or TradingView. And it is for free to be able to utilize that. Our Slim Ribbon PO is for level 4, but a quick, again, explanation is this is meant to be a momentum indicator, basically a trend momentum indicator to give you a sense of the overall condition of the security. You can see here as an example with XLE that we had a shift to a negative bias. This was probably about mid-August here, and then you can see how the Slim Ribbon held that negative reading. And then we had a shift that came in early mid-November, and that held again. So the Slim Ribbon can be utilized on multiple time frames. We use it on multiple time frames. We use it on everything from even the 3-minute charts all the way to the weekly chart. But primarily we use it on our intraday charts through the daily chart. And that's what you have on here, so you can get a good feel for our annotated charts in the report. And then there's a technical overview. So this is important because all of the work that we do is designed, all of our reports, our videos, they're all designed to be able to allow for you to create a trading plan from them. So obviously that's really, really important. As a trader, you want to have a defined trading plan. And there should be 5 core questions that you're asking yourself as you're looking to build out that plan. Obviously, there's additional ones, but what's that time frame for your trade setup? So that's something that you really want to think about, and that's why these charts are so important. If you're looking at a time frame, let's say your short term. So we define short term. We break that into another subcategory. So there's two categories for short term for us. The first short term time frame is basically 1 to 3 weeks. So if you have an outlook of 1 to 3 weeks, then you're going to want to look at our daily charts typically, or our 2-hour charts. But for these purposes, you would have access to the daily chart. For those of you that are more of an intermediate time frame trader, something like 3 to 8 weeks, these two charts are great for that. And then the weekly chart is great for those that are the intermediate to maybe a position time frame trader, looking at either 3 to 8 weeks or maybe a couple months and beyond. So another aspect of our charts and our information in terms of the trade planning is trying to get a sense of directional bias. So when you look at our charts and our content here, in terms of the overview, we try to give you enough information so you can get a sense of what we feel is that directional bias, and our indicators help with that. So you can tell when this snapshot was taken, the screenshot, the XLE had shifted neutral on the daily chart. And also on the weekly, you can see we use a moving average here, the home moving average, as a momentum indicator, as one of our core momentum indicators, along with the slim ribbon. And it helps with our cycle timing too. This one had shifted at that time to negative, although the configuration of the cycle was still positive. So that's why it's going to be important to go to that cycle basics to get a feel for the basics of the cycle analysis methodology, or you can take the cycle analysis workshop. Many of you probably signed up for that recently. But I'm just going to do a quick review here so you can, again, so as you get a feel for the configuration and phasing of a cycle, how important that is in terms of the timing. So on the XLE here, you can see that the dominant weekly cycle had a suggested projected low due sometime, it was about early mid-November here. And that's what we saw. We had the confirmation of the momentum indicator, which gave you a nice run for several weeks here. And in terms of configuration, what we look for is the price levels of the lows of the cycles, then relative, also the relationship to the highs of the cycles. And when you have a cycle low that does not take out the prior cycle low and then clears the 78.6 of the has a retracement of the decline of 78.6 in this case here, that would be a buy warning for us, or a positive warning in terms of a shift in that cycle configuration in that intermediate time frame. So what that would suggest is we likely would get a pullback in here, and then as the next rally phase would open up probably in this minor cycle to be another opportunity maybe to retest some highs. I went through that because I wanted to give you a feel for how we utilize these tools that are on the charts to help with that trade planning concepts. And obviously, when you have your key levels in terms of the supports and then the resistance, that is also very helpful. Okay, and when you get into this area here, you have your momentum conditions. So you get a chance to take a look at what the conditions were at the time the report was written in terms of the daily and weekly, and then a longer term, so your short-term, intermediate, and longer-term conditions. And then there's a deep details on the current technical notes on the upside and the downside. I'm not going to go through it all, but it is really, really meticulously done to give you a sense of where we are with the security, the condition of the security, the likely next levels it should challenge, the bias in terms of bullish or bearish. So very helpful information as you put together a trading plan. And that would be the same for each one of these. So XLF has the charts, the technical overview, same with XLI and XLK. And then there's a relative performance tracker that we put in here. So you can get a peek at what the momentum readings were on the 2-hour chart, the daily chart, the weekly, and the monthly as you scan the complete list of the Spider Select ETFs that we track. So that is the Spider Select ETF review report. Are there any questions on that one? You can just put them in the Q&A if you have any questions on there. I'll keep going and I'll come back to them if I see some stuff pop up. All right, next we're going to take a look at the stock index report, which we call the SIR. We're going to look at the weekly outlook. You can find that here. Again, this is the level 1 dashboard. So you have the Spider Select report in here, the Market Week archive, the sampling of videos. Now we're going to take a look at the SIR weekly outlook. This report is published on a weekly basis, typically comes out on Wednesday evenings. It provides a deep dive technical review of the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, and the Russell 2000. This is really, really great for those of you that are looking to get a barometer in terms of the overall condition of the indexes. If you're a short-term trader, 1 to 3 weeks, intermediate time frame trader, 3 to 8 weeks, or that longer term, even 3 months plus, this is a great report because we go very deep into the technicals on the 3 indexes. Similar to the ETF report, you're going to get our annotated charts again. So you click on the image, you can expand that image, and you can get a feel for the cycle timing. You can get a look at what the projections are in terms of the upside and the downside. It's on the weekly chart, similar information on the daily. Now there's a number of cycles that we are studying right now. Yesterday's Future Speak show, Slim went over that information. We did include that in the SIR report yesterday as a courtesy. So make sure that you take a look at that technical summary. Again, as a deep dive for those of you that like numbers and use numbers as actionable insights, or you want to utilize it for trade planning purposes, this is an awesome report for that. It is meticulously done, reviewed every week for those reasons. But here's that link to that Future Speak show in here. This is part of the level 2 membership, but we did provide it to our level 1 members yesterday as a courtesy because many of you are new. It's a great show to take a look at. It goes through many futures contracts, variety of markets, and it'll give you a really good sense of our technical methodology, as you can hear from Slim as he's describing the analysis on those markets in multiple time frames. Okay, so again, you have the technical review, and then you have an outlook. So for each one of those time frames, we provide an outlook in terms of an anticipated or projected price projection for that current outlook period. Again, really good for trade planning purposes, give you a sense of what those trend and momentum conditions were at that time. And if you look at, as an example, these two here, the upside overview, the downside overview, will let you know if the price projections were previously reached. And then we give you what the new ones are. So this was just completed last night. So we were looking for 38.75 to 38.88. And then we let you know an area where there's likely needs to be a reevaluation that would suggest that these levels are likely not to be reached or may just simply need to be reevaluated. Same thing on the downside. Markets move in both directions. But typically, the thing you want to do is get a sense of what the directional bias is. That's why this is helpful. But the reality is there is going to be some downside that's going to happen even within uptrends, obviously. So this will give you a sense of where we think those levels might be during that period of time. And again, with some reevaluation levels on there. Then you have an intermediate term outlook. Similar concept, just a longer term time frame there. This one's for 1 to 2 months out, and then the longer term outlook, 3 to 6 months. Then we also in parentheses give the conversion for the ETF. So this would be obviously for the SPY, what those levels would be. Same information you get with the NDX. So you get our weekly charts, the daily chart, technical summary, and then the outlooks, price projections. Same with the RUT. Remember to click on that image to expand it. And then you click on these accordion icons here to open up the information in here. And some other important information in the technical evidence summary area. Go to the askSlim cycle analysis tracker, and we have the dates in here. In terms of those projected dates ranges for the daily dominant cycle lows. You had the daily cycle phase, the idealized timing that's in play at the moment, and what that configuration is for that particular time frame and that particular index. And then you have the same for the weekly. All right, there's a review of the stock index report, cycle and trend momentum review that we do on a weekly basis. Is there any questions that I can answer regarding this report? We had a member ask how often these charts are updated. For level 1 members, these are typically updated once a week. For level 2 members, there is a daily snapshot that comes out. So that daily chart and the daily information in terms of the key levels is updated on a daily basis. And then for level 3 and level 4 members, there's a review of all the charts basically every day and updates as needed. When there's major changes or key cycle lows that happen, we typically put out an interim update for all members, including level 1. All right, I'm going to move on to the Slimulator Momentum Tracker. How many of you have tested this one out? Show a raise of hands. Okay, good. A number of you did. So if you've had any questions on this, please make sure that you indicate those in here so we can cover them. So the Slimulator Momentum Tracker is a way for you to access our proprietary momentum readings on more than 1,000 symbols, ETFs, and you get to see our momentum readings at multiple time frames. So the application here uses our custom algorithms, and it generates a directional bias and outlook from the momentum condition of the 3 time frames. And it's really designed to support active investors and longer term swing traders. As you see here, it says outlook 3+ months. And so I'm going to walk through some of the highlights and features of the momentum tracker here. There are 2 primary ways to search for information, momentum information, using the momentum tracker. One of those is by doing a single symbol view. So you can plug in a symbol, let's just use SPY, and then you'll get a reading on that specific symbol. And again, it's in 3 time frames, so short term, intermediate, and longer term. So our short term utilizes the daily chart information that we have with our custom momentum indicators. Intermediate time frame is going to be using weekly, and then our longer term is going to use a combination of monthly and weekly. And then what we have here with this directional bias is we've created an algorithm that weights these 3 momentum indicators at these time frames and then generates a directional bias at this investor outlook or active swing trader with a longer term time horizon. So that's what the meaning of this information is. And again, in terms of searching for things, you can click on that single symbol view. You can plug in a symbol, SLV, very bullish. So that's how you would do a single symbol search. If there are symbols in here that come up empty, please let us know, or you can actually indicate to get those added to the library. We do take a look at that on a fairly regular basis. So please let us know if there are symbols that are not in here that you're interested in. All right, another very powerful way to do some searching for symbols is through our watch list. So we have a set of canned watch lists that are pre-established in everyone's momentum tracker. And what you can do is, let's go to the, let's say the NASDAQ 100 here. You click on that. All right, so this has just pulled up the NASDAQ 100. And what you can do is you can sort. And so I can sort in here by directional bias. So if I wanted to find those symbols that are most bearish or most bullish, I can do that in an instant. So it's an excellent way to review momentum very quickly on a variety of symbols that you're interested in or indexes to try to figure out which ones are going to meet your portfolio or trading needs in terms of the bias that you're looking to either add to a portfolio. It's just a great tool for that. Again, the default is it's by when you come into the Slimulator momentum tracker, it'll default by alpha. When you look at a list, so if I go into XLE Energy, let's do the industrials, something different here. You can see that it will default by alpha, but then you can sort it by directional bias and see which ones fit, again, that bias that you're looking for. I mean, it's great that we also have the neutral in here for those of you that are looking for various maybe option strategies. Again, I can sort by then, see if we can find the most bullish. So very quickly, you can get a sense of momentum based on our timeframes. This is updated throughout the day, just about every couple minutes or so. Another interesting tool is the momentum ratio pie chart here, so you can get a sense of the overall portion of symbols that are within that index or watch list in terms of their overall directional bias conditions. So if we look at, for example, the XLI, 67% right now in terms of directional bias are neutral, 22% are bullish, and 12% are bearish. Now let's just compare that to, let's say, the NASDAQ. And you can see that you have 50% neutral, you have 46% currently that are bullish and only 4% that are bearish. And if we compare that to, let's look at the financials. Similar, but you even have even less that are bearish right now. So very interesting there. Let's take a look at the whole S&P 500. It takes a little bit longer here to load. Just want to give you a feel for all the various features and tools that you can use with the momentum tracker. Yeah, so we had about 50% neutral, 41% bullish, 9% bearish. You can also sort by specific momentum if you wanted to see what it was at that moment and compare those indexes or specific sectors. So let's just look at the short-term momentum. In the S&P right now, it's fairly mixed. We'll compare it to the NASDAQ. Yeah, fairly mixed conditions right now. So again, a very quick and convenient way to get a sense of momentum. You can sort on short term. So if you wanted to see which ones have short-term momentum that is a bearish or negative or intermediate time frame momentum or longer term. You can also scan. So you can scan for those symbols that have recently changed in terms of these metrics. So if I wanted to look for directional bias shifts in the NASDAQ 100, recent ones, it will then sort those ones. So these would be the ones that recently had a shift in that directional bias. I'm going to look for, let's just say today, if there was any bearish shifts in the short-term momentum. Looks like there might have been a few of them. So again, it's a great way to get a feel for momentum at multiple time frames. Take a look at this, utilize it. Let us know, let me know what you think. Let me know if you have questions or if you have suggestions on how to make it better. We're always looking to innovate our products, enhance them, improve them for trade planning purposes. All right, any questions on the momentum tracker here? We did have a attendee who asked, is the Slimulator momentum tracker included in level 1? The answer is yes. This is all the features I'm showing you are included with the momentum tracker that is available in level 1. Someone asked, is it time-based? Not exactly sure what that means. If you want to clarify a little more detail on that, I'd be happy to answer it. If you're asking, are the momentum conditions time-based? The answer is yes. So there's 3 different momentum timeframes in here: short-term, which looks at, again, the daily charts; intermediate, which looks at the weekly charts; and then longer-term momentum, which utilizes our momentum indicators in the weekly and monthly charts. So what these are is our proprietary momentum indicators. And we have an algorithm that pulls that data and right into the momentum tracker. So that's what these readings are. These are momentum readings. And again, there's a variety of lists in here. So if you want to look at the biotechs, you can go in there and you can look at the biotechs. We can stop the scan and just sort it based on overall conditions. Again, most bullish, the most bearish. Yes, that scan does trigger the most recent changes. Someone had asked about that. Something else I'm going to show here real quick is if you click on the indicator here for more, it will open up a change log, and you can see we have dates on here when the primary changes have taken place. So you can see the overall directional bias changed on 128. Our reading shifted from bullish to very bullish. But you can see when it shifted, the momentum, specific momentum metrics also shifts when those shifts took place. So in a way, it's also a way to audit the capability of the momentum indicators in here. And then there's also a chart that shows the shifts in bias as they occur. So the last reading that SLV had was a bullish shift, and that was on December 15th, and it's maintained that bullish bias since. Okay, all right. So there was just a question that came in. Can I use it for the general direction of the SPY over the 3 time phases? Yeah, that's what momentum is for, is help give you a sum of the evidence. We always look at a sum of the evidence. We like to look at the cycle configuration, momentum, and then trend. So obviously momentum is one of those key components. So we would recommend that you do look at momentum as part of your directional decision making. Hopefully that answers that question regarding using general direction over the 3 time phases. So if I go back to the SPY here, that's related to the question that was just asked. Right now, we have the short term, the intermediate, and the longer term, which says the overall momentum is still very bullish. Again, this is a pure momentum reading. All right. Now that we have reviewed the momentum tracker, and if other questions come up, we can come back to it. So now we're going to move on. We're going to go take a look at some of the newer features of level 1. We're going to take a look at the workbench. So our workbench, all levels have access to the workbench. But today we're focused on level 1. So this is, again, the level 1 dashboard. And level 1 members, you can access the new workbench simply by clicking on it here. All right, that opened up. Now, the view here, though, is my admin view, which is really a level 4, similar to a level 4 view. But the level 1 members will have access to the feed, the worksheets, the My Trades, and the momentum tracker. So level 1 would have access, my feed, my worksheets, my trades, momentum tracker. We've reviewed the momentum tracker, and we're going to cover my feed, my worksheets, and my trades. But the workbench in general is really the place where the trader and active investors, this is the section of the site that you want to go when you want to get to work. And what I mean by that is when you want to get to work in terms of documenting your technical analysis research and preparing your trade plans, monitoring your trades relative to the trading plan. So that's what this area is. This is your workbench. And please note that this is a custom environment for you. So we've designed this so that the worksheets in my trade area is 100% custom to you. So, when I open these up in a minute, you'll be able to see that you can modify the information in here in any way that you want. So essentially, it's a cloud-based storage solution that will give you the ability to organize, prioritize, save, and track your technical analysis on the symbols you're researching for future trade execution. We'll look at, that's the My Worksheet. So we'll look at that in a second. We're going to start with My Feed. So the My Feed area is designed to help pull in the content that is recently posted for your specific membership level. Okay, and you can utilize the favoriting over here if you see content that comes in that you want to favorite, and then you'll be able to sort based on that by clicking that star the next time. So this is a great way with the My Feed, which is where it defaults to see what has recently been posted that's relevant to my specific membership level. When you go back to the dashboard, we have a recent posts area. This would be everything, but this is everything for all levels. The workbench area will customize it so that the feed is specific to your membership level. Okay. And obviously everything is hyperlinked so that you can click it and it'll take you right to that page. All right, so let's jump in. Let's take a look at the worksheets here because this is very important. This is brand new. And this is really, really cool. I mean, if you're an analyst and if you're a trader, you absolutely want to be using this. As we all know, in the heat of the market movements, your emotions can hijack your brain function. That's just the way it is, and that's not what you want. So that's why it's so important to map out your trades. It's the first thing Slim coached me on, taught me when I hired him almost 20 years ago to be my coach, to understand how to be a professional analyst, to have that kind of mindset. And what does a professional trader do to be profitable over the long term so that you can depend on trading to be an income source for yourself? We have to treat this like a business. That's why I said it's the workbench. It's the place to go to work. So inside of the worksheets here, you have a chance to create new worksheets. So you can call them whatever you'd like. But for ease of dialogue here, I'm going to just put in today's date, create. All right. So once I've done that, now I can click on that title, and that's going to bring me into the worksheet environment. And when I'm in the worksheet environment here, I can start going through the symbols that I am researching and adding in that information. So let's just have someone in the audience. Let's do this sort of live together. Why don't you share a symbol that you're interested in, and we can walk through how you would utilize the trade planning environment that we have here with askSlim to record information that we could utilize for potential trade planning purposes. So go ahead, those of you that are out there, feel free to put in a symbol. Okay, good. Some people are putting some symbols in. I'll let a couple more come in here. You know, don't be shy. Feel free. All right, so we got a few of them in here. Let's take. We could take a look at Boeing. So I'm gonna put in Boeing here. Lulu, AMR. Okay, there's a lot of good ones in here. All right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to have to bounce around a little bit. We're going to do two things. One was we're going to look at the index, the SPX at a high level, and I'm going to use yesterday's report and charts to do that. And then we're also going to look at one of these symbols, and we'll start with Boeing. So first, what I'm going to do here is just show you how easy it is to add in the symbols and add in rows. Okay, and again, this is your custom environment. You're in the cloud askSlim area. So when I plug some symbols in here, these are for me. So when you plug in symbols, those are for you. So no more, all of us have done this in the past. I still have notebooks from 15, 20 years ago that are stored where I was taking notes down on my method and the key levels and hot lists. And I tell you, this whole concept here has been developed conceptually for a number of years to relieve that burden of having notes all over the place, and now you can store them. All right, so all you have to do is plug in the symbol you're interested in. You don't have to plug in everything here. This is your worksheet area. Your scratch pad. You can put in as much as you want. It helps you get going on the research that you're doing. You can always come back to it, add to it, change it. So we had a couple that came in here. So Amazon, not that we're going to do them all necessarily. There's Lulu. I'm just showing you how this works, how easy it is. If there was other ones, and we're going to make improvements to this. This just came out. This is brand new. So we'll obviously have ways to probably duplicate rows to be able to save a set of symbols that you'd want to just import easily in here. But feel free to suggest improvements. We want to hear it. We want to provide these tools to make your work as a trader, as an analyst, as efficient and effective as possible. We want to make your time that you're researching very convenient. That's what this is for. So as you're looking at a chart or doing your research, you can plug it in over here. All right, so I'm going to put in SPX over here. And then remember to click escape and enter when you're done, because that'll save it into the system. So I'm going to click enter, and you can see that it sort of locks it in place. Okay. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this real quick, but I'm going to jump over. I'm going to go into our chart grids. Now this is level 4 members have access to our chart grids, but as a trader and analyst, this is how I use our work. So I'm going to go over to our Boeing annotated charts, and I'm going to show you how this is done on my thinkorswim platform. So this is my thinkorswim platform. This is our TDAs, our preferred broker that we're using. This is where we do all our work in our charts. I'm going to preview. This is how we do it. You preview that toss link if you're a level 4 member, and that'll open up then to all of the symbols within that grid that we've done our work on. We meaning the askSlim analyst team, Slim and Arvi. And I'm going to open this up here. And the symbol that we're going to look at here is Boeing. I'm going to maximize this cell. So the first chart that comes up is the weekly chart. Now, for the individual that asked to take a look at Boeing that we're going to plug into the worksheets then, could you tell me the time frame that you're interested in terms of the outlook period? So if you wanted to build a trade plan around it, what would be that time frame for Boeing that you're most interested in? So while that person responds, let's see, 4 hours. So does that mean that you're an intraday trader, that you're basically a swing trader, intraday swing trader? Is that what that means, 4 hours? Okay. Well, that's actually probably a topic for potentially another discussion here, because I wanted to show the daily and weekly charts. I can get to the intraday time frame here in a minute. Would you want to see, let me know if you want to see more of the short-term time frame for Boeing, or if there was others that would want to see that short-term or intermediate time frame. Actually, I have our, here, this is not a problem. Here, we'll do this. All right, so the question was, this is what we would call, this is intraday. The grids that we have set up currently are not for, the only intraday charts that we do right now would be on the indexes. Okay, so daily is fine. All right, so let's talk about, I'll come back to this. We can look at a near-term look too. So daily, so for daily, if that would mean something like the next, let's say 1 to 3 weeks. So here's how we would evaluate this and how I'm going to plug it into our worksheets. So up on another one of my monitors, I wish I could show you both monitors at the same time. I don't think I can with this tool or with this Zoom. So on my right monitor, I have up my weekly Boeing chart, and I'll pull it over here in a second. And then in this monitor that you're viewing, you get to see the worksheet. So the analysis price would be, as you're going through the symbols that you're evaluating for potential trades, or active investors, position trading, timeframes, the price right now is, it's fluctuating. Let's say it's 209.88. Okay, so that gives me a reference point when I come back to look at this. And again, I'm going to save this. All right, what's my outlook period? Well, now we're looking at, let's say, the short term. So again, short term, 1 to 3 weeks. Plug that in there. And I'm going to come back to these notes and images in a second. So directional bias, I don't know what that is yet. Let's just say we don't know what that is yet, because that's what we're going to go study. So now we're going to do some studying together and how we use the askSlim charts to help us with that. Or if your own charts. Again, so I'm going to just go back to the worksheet, because what we're trying to do here is build a plan. This is a logical step-by-step. This is a map of basically the core components of what you'd want to do to help you decide if something is going to be shifted from a position that you're just researching, or security symbol that you're researching, to something that you may want to execute a trade on, and bring that into into your radar for that execution. All right, so we defined our outlook period, which is important. Now we're going to try to determine our directional bias. So what do we look for at askSlim? So for directional bias, as I mentioned earlier, we look at a number of core components, and those include cycle configuration, momentum, and trend. And so as we look at this time frame here, so we're going to talk about daily, okay? So the mention was daily, so maybe a 1 to 3 week trade. So our primary momentum, our directional component that we're going to look for would be the slim ribbon here. So I'm going to zoom in so we can look at this a little bit better. So I'm going to look at the slim ribbon, and then we're also going to look at the cycle configuration. So let's start with the slim ribbon. The slim ribbon, as we talked about before, colors the candles based on the positioning of the exponential moving averages. And currently in Boeing, right now, it's still red or negative or bearish, although we have some flattening out. And if this was to continue, it may shift neutral. So I would call this slightly bearish at the moment in terms of the momentum. Now let's look at pull these indicators here down a little bit. Now let's look at our cycle configuration. So we just talked about momentum, which is slightly bearish at the moment. It looks like it could be slightly bearish and neutral, even as it's neutralizing here a little bit. And now our cycle configuration. So what we're going to do is we want to compare the price action of the last couple cycles. So we have our low, we have another low here. And we want to look for is in this current cycle that is actually in this bottoming phase. We want to see where the price is relative to the prior low. And what we see is that there was a violation of the cycle low support. And that's typically a negative indicator. Why is it a negative indicator? Well, it would suggest to us that the likelihood of what we're looking for is the likelihood of new highs or new lows. So you want to think of the definition of an uptrend or downtrend. It's a very easy way to think these things through. So obviously, if you have an uptrend that's going on or a positive cycle, you would expect higher highs or higher lows. But when you have a breakdown in the cycle, that would suggest that the rallies that are to occur are likely to fail, and you're typically going to have then lower lows that occur and lower highs. And that's the cycle theory. That's the way that we approach the method. So, as a trader, you have to have a method. Why? Because without a method, it's very difficult to track your performance. And it's also very difficult to execute if you don't know what are the signals that you're looking for that execution. And so as we were just talking about, we want to build out our trading plan, and we're trying to determine bias. That's what we're doing right here. So we had a breakdown in the cycle support in the cycle structure. The cycle structure, when this happened, went negative. Okay, now there's a repair scenario, and I can talk about that in a second. But right now we're just talking about what is the current condition. So this breakdown turned the cycle negative. This meant that rallies that occurred in this next cycle were likely to fail until you get to some key support. So you can see we put in these key areas. So if you were that short-term trader or even that intermediate time trader, that was a good indication that this next daily cycle was going to be more negative than positive. And then, okay, so let's go back to, so if we're talking about where we are right now, so where are we right now? So in terms of the highs of this prior cycle, we did not take those out. We took out the lows. So overall, at the moment, we're still in a negative cycle configuration. It looks like it's trying to bottom. It could be extending out here. So that would suggest to us that we're looking for probably some testing up and some retracement going on, and then potentially another opportunity. Once I'm going to expand this out so we can talk about the highest probabilities here. So what we're looking at is a potential low that is forming, as we're indicating here, or that there could be an extending out of this daily dominant cycle. I'm going to just take a look at the weekly here. So we have weekly momentum is negative as well. We're finding some support in the weekly support area. All right, so now what I would be looking for is let me just get my fib retracement tool out here so we can talk about how we move on to the next component. Here, I'm going to do this so we stay on track. All right, our directional bias at the moment we're looking at, and we can look at both sides of the coin, but right now, you could call it a slightly bearish, neutral, or even short position. So let's say we were looking at a short side position, potentially in Boeing. What would be the optimal scenario for that? And I'm going to lock that in there. Okay, pull this back in. All right, we're looking for the optimal scenario for a potential short in Boeing. We can talk about the long side too. In terms of timing, so this is why the cycle work is so important. We're coming into a period where there's a low due. So this is a time frame here where you could have some high volatility that comes in because this low is coming due. And then the next rally phase, that comes into play here. I'm gonna have to expand this out a little bit more so we can look. These are some big cycles in Boeing. So based on these current cycles, it looks like we have, again, the risk of this bottoming that's coming in here over the next few weeks. So what I would be doing then as we look to the next components, so we have our cycle low timing. So what we can do here is the dates. 2/8. The other one is 2/22. 2/8, 2/22. That's on the daily. Take a screenshot, put that in there. All right, so now I'm looking at, let's talk about support and resistances before we would talk about potential entry and exit ranges. So we know we came in, we bounced off some support. We also had, if I click on here, right click on it, I got the 89 period moving average, which Slim likes to use to get a feel for a little bit of more an intermediate time frame directional component, as well as we like to look at how far away it is from that moving average. It typically acts as a magnet for support and resistance. So you can see that it came down, tested it exactly, plus that's where the indicated support source. So we get this bounce. So now what I'm going to do is we want to look at some other potential resistance areas. So if I'm on the daily chart, and this is in our video library, maybe for level 1, we can plug in, one of these videos in here. But what we do is we call it a swing high, swing low analysis. So I'm going to look at a swing high, this cycle high here that occurred in December. And I'm going to do a drawing here from that high to the swing low that occurred so far. And then I'm going to get a sense of these retracements, that the strength of the retracement of this decline, to get a feel for potential resistance areas where it would increase the odds of entry for the sellers to come back in if I was anticipating being short Boeing here. So what we typically look for is if something's in a more of a negative bias, that once you get into the 38.2 to 61.8 area is usually the key resistance area. So the great thing is if you're a level 4 member 2, you can play with our charts, but I'm just gonna, for my own doing, let's just say, and you can use, if you use TradingView or whatever you would use, and I'm just doing this quick, I would probably color code these a little bit differently. Let me just pull this down. Okay, so this is my area of focus here. So I'm looking at, we just tagged it today. So something like 212-ish to say 224 would be some key short-term resistance that I would be watching for sellers to come back in. I mean, we just started to touch it today. So we're nearing into those areas here. So if this is going to be a negative, continue to be in a negative pattern, you would likely see Boeing fail in this zone here. If it closed above, a lot of this is how we approach it. There's a method so that we can understand how to determine if something's bullish, bearish, neutral, what have you. Now, if we closed above, say, 225-ish, now it's likely that Boeing has neutralized, that cycle structure has been neutralized. And if it breaks out above 78.6, well, that would be a cycle breakout warning, and would likely suggest that that whatever negative condition was within Boeing in that short term is likely shifting to now more of a positive condition, and we'd be looking for higher highs. So as the next pullback would occur into some support, look for a breakout. All right, so if we come back now to our worksheet, we talked about resistance areas. So I would go into my resistance area here, and we said 212 about. And then we said 224. And the other thing I'm going to show you here, so I'm going to save that, but I'm going to go back into here. I'm going to show you what's really cool that we can do. So I can take a screenshot of this, and I'm going to save this into my system here. I created a folder called trade planning, and I'm going to create a new folder. This is not within the askSlim system. This is just my own hard drive at home. And I'm going to create a folder called Boeing. And now I'm going to do a screenshot. So this is my daily view. I'm going to save that. Okay, close this out. And I'm going to, there's Boeing. Let me get back to the worksheet now. Okay, so what I wanted to show you is that you can save these images. Upload an image, go into my trade planning file. This is on my personal hard drive here. Go into my Boeing folder, click on daily view, boom, it's saved in here, okay? I'm gonna save it. So now it says up here that your image upload was successful. It should have saved it for me. Okay, so I've entered in my resistance zone. Now you can see this, the change of color here that says view image. I can click on this, and now I can open that up. Okay, so that's that screenshot I just took. Now, this is so important to me because as in the heat of the moment again, as I'm thinking through, let's say I got 10, 15 symbols here, and I start mapping all this stuff out, I can't remember everything, right? And you definitely don't want to get into the heat of the moment, the heat of battle when you're trying to execute a trade and forget why you decided that you wanted to be short, right? So now I won't forget because I can click on this image here and I can, oh yeah, that's what it was. I did my homework. I verified that I had a negative breakdown in the cycle. The slim ribbon still is negative, a little choppy here, but because of the cycle configuration, there's a higher probability at the moment that we would get a failure or a retest of these lows and we would get a breakout. Now, so that takes care of that resistance area for myself. So now let's go back to the workbench here. And let's start talking about potentially some entry ranges. So those entry ranges are going to be similar. So again, it might be, let's just for time purposes, 212 to 224. But I can go back and I can verify, I can either look at my real chart or I could go back, okay, 224, there we go. All right. And then what am I looking for? Now what I'm also looking for is a reevaluation point. So this is where, if I'm going to be short, where's the level that would tell me that that short bias is in jeopardy, that you need to reevaluate, that you may either need to take that position off, you may shift to a long or bullish position, or you reduce your position size. You want to have that thought out as well so that you're not sort of in that state of uncertainty or panic, because the market's going to be moving fast many times. Sometimes it's choppy, then all of a sudden the market moves and you got to make your decision. So based on that information we just looked at, that would be for me something like, say, 225. So a close above 225. Again, this is a multi-week swing trade here. So it might be 225. It would suggest to me a close above that. So I'm also going to add a note in here. Let me get in there. Oh, that's the wrong one. I'm going to go in my reevaluation area. I want to add a note that says close above. Close above. Just something that's going to remind you. I'm just doing some shorthand right now. Now, if there was other exit entry ranges, there's additional rows you can add in here too. So this is very, very flexible, very, very flexible. All right, so now we've added in our reevaluation point. We have some exit. That's not supposed to be exit. That's supposed to be entry. Move this over. All right, so let's save that in there. Okay, so now let's look at our potential exit ranges, because again, we're building out a plan here for ourselves. Let's say that, typically what you would do is you would walk through these symbols. You really want to connect to those ones. You want to keep going on those ones you really feel something strongly about. I'm going to get back to that Boeing chart here. you know, I don't love this one yet, you know, why is that? Well, it's because you have this sort of uncertainty with the cycle time frame, and then we're getting in a little bit of a choppy, but at the moment, you know, I lean based on our methodology that this is a more of a, again, a slightly bearish to short kind of strategy rather than a long side. Because why? Because of that cycle breakdown and the fact that the momentum on the weekly is still negative, and there's still some time to go in this. See, we're entering into we're in the peaking, and then we're going to get into the declining phase. So if our cycle timing is fairly accurate here, then the highest risk period is really, we're starting to get into that. So that's why cycle timing is also important, because you think about, if you're an options trader, you know, your timing on your strategies, it's very helpful to know when the highest periods of risk is. So that's in the peaking phase. That doesn't mean it can't bounce a little bit. It sure could. But then you're getting into this period of risk where a low is due. Okay. Now, we'll come back to what the weekly chart is telling us in just a second. But on that daily chart again, coming back over here. So again, this is a short-term trade potentially. This might only be for, you know, a 1 to 2 weeks as you look for a low to come in place, come due. And again, we're looking into this range here. I'm going to get back to my worksheet and see what I haven't done yet. Okay, our exit ranges. All right, so if we get into this range up here, so now what I would do is, again, for us, we like to be very methodical, very specific when you're building out your plan. And, you know, let's assume we could have a couple different assumptions. So let's just, and there's nothing that says you know, our style, everyone has their own individual style when it comes to trade planning, when it comes to trade execution, in terms of your position sizing, your strategies, and everything else. So there's nothing that says that you couldn't enter this position, say, a few times, because you're likely not going to be perfect. You know, so give yourself some flexibility on that, knowing that this is an area potentially of resistance in here. So, you know, we could look at, you know, here, here, and here. And in terms of the exit, then if you entered today, you know, what's the conservative approach? Well, the conservative approach would be something that, you know, that it comes back in a retracement the other way from anywhere the 38.2 to 61.8. Okay. If it closes below the 61.8, well, now that opens up the door to a retest of 78.6 to the lows here, with even a potential breakdown even further. So that's why understanding these levels is so important, because it can help get a feel for, you know, potentially what's coming next. So this is a pretty positive candle, and that's why you see like this continued push today. So it's, you know, you can still get some push into the resistance area. But if I was to wait to get that 218 level-ish, oops, I gotta get this back. So again, from the low, swing low up to this swing high, if that's where it was. Zoom in a little bit for myself. You know, so if my entry was more 218, you know, now I'm looking at 208 to say 202 potentially. You know, somewhere in there. So let's just say 210 to 202. All right, so 210 to 202. Enter. And let me go back over here now. Again, what can you do? So this is you're thinking this out. You can take a screenshot, you can save that for yourself, and then you can upload it into your worksheet. All right, so this is, label it, my resistance, and let's say entry exit. Save it into my folder there. I'll close this out, go back to my worksheet. Where were we here? There it is. And I'm going to upload right here. I'm going to go into this one and I'm going to save that. Boom. So now for myself, I have, let's save it in there. There it is right there, view image. So now when I want to reflect back on some of my, my trading plan, my map, my logic in terms of where and why would I go short? What are my potential exit areas? I have that information right there for myself to review. And then I can check. Now let's take the next step, and I'll come back to that train of thought in a second. Okay, so let's say we walk through this one. This one looks like it's something we want to move into a different category. So what we're doing is we're transitioning here. I'm going to take you through the steps again, really quick in terms of the logic here. So what we did is we did analysis. We did analysis so that we could figure out our plan. Now we're going from analysis to potentially execution. So when we shift from analysis to execution, let's say that this is a symbol that we wanted to position for execution now or potentially in the future. You set some alerts. You want to be triggered when that happens. You highlight the row, okay? You can see that I've highlighted this row. It turns blue. I can unhighlight. I can highlight. And then there's an arrow here that says forward selected rows to my trade ideas. Okay, so these now, this specific one, I'm going to push to the next phase of your planning. And it says rows forwarded to my trade ideas. Great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my trades. And I did a demo, I think, the other day on Nike, but in SPY. So I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to go back into my trades. You can see it added the Boeing work. So now what I've done is, again, I'll come back over here, show you the logic that we just did here. This is your place you go and you do your analysis, your research. You start filling out the sheets, the symbols you're looking at. And then when you find those that you want to shift to, let's call it your hot list for trading execution, you can highlight those rows and you can push it. I'm just going to duplicate it, push it back over there, go back over to my trades, refresh it, and you'll see it'll be two of them now over there. See, it's there twice. But now it's on my hot list. So this is a different environment. This means that you're ready to make a decision on execution, or it's something that you've executed. Okay. So now if I click on this, it opens up and you're in a different environment. It's got all that information I've already plugged in. And now you can take it one step further. You can indicate what you want, what you think your position sizing should be. Right. So whatever that might be. Again, this is all for yourself for tracking purposes. If you have any other notes, you can add it, and then you can put your actual entries in. So let's say it got to 214 today. And then your actual exit. You can add in, again, screenshots and notes, additional notes that you wanted to put in here in terms of the logic of why you executed that trade for yourself. This is all really important so you can look back on it, because that's what you want to do is as you execute many trades and you try to understand what your method is and the performance of your method. This is a great way to be able to track that information. All right, so I'm going to save this. Now, what you can do too, this is really great for performance purposes, is you can indicate what's active, what's completed. So I'm going to indicate this as active. Let's just say I'm going to save it, exit here, and you can see now that Boeing has shifted to a green status, which means it's active. So then I could sort by the symbols that I have that are active, meaning that you have positions on with them. So this is very different than what you have in your typical brokerage account. This is all about your trade planning. It's a way for you, again, to have a reference for execution and your trade planning to be able to manage and track that performance. And then you can then indicate if it was if it worked out or not, right? So I can go into, where was that here? Oh, outcome. Go to your outcome, and you can indicate if it was a loss, push, or win. So then you could also sort by outcomes as well. Okay. We'll go back over to our Boeing chart, and that's our plan. So that's our short side plan for the next, let's say, week to 3 weeks. And again, if we got above the 61.8, well, that would change the picture. But right now, due to that cycle breakdown, if it rolls over, now in terms of rolling over here, I'm going to show you something else that we have available for level 4. But if you have your own tools that use, so for level 1, what you have access to are the trade planning tools, and you have access to that deep dive information on the indexes through the stock index reports at our higher levels. And I'm not trying to sell them, I'm just letting you know what's available. You do have access to our indicators at these shorter term time frames. And the reason I'm bringing this up is so that you can get a feel for how the various ways you might decide on your strategic entries. Okay, maybe it's based on resistance, right? So as you hit certain resistance areas, if you're that kind of trader, or maybe you do multi-strategies, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's part of being a trader and investors. You get to be creative and express your own ideas and strategic thinking. The key thing is just to be consistent, or if you're going to modify things, to have some reasoning and some logic for making those modifications. But my point with this is, so if I was a momentum trader, so if I'm moving beyond, let's just say, the fact that it's testing some resistance, but how do I know that it's sort of coming back into my direction in terms of being more of a bearish play? There's a couple different things we have on here. So one is our Slim Ribbon PO, which you can see here. What it does is it reads the condition of the security, and then it also generates a signal when the projection oscillator. So we've integrated the projection oscillator with our Slim Ribbon to give signals when momentum is reconfirmed in the dominant direction. You'll get these arrows here that appear. And also our option bias indicator has suggested that currently Boeing is in a N3. You see these rankings down here, N3 ranking, which is the most negative at the moment condition. So we had these signals. So if this came from the overbought condition that's in, and then came through here, that would generate a signal suggesting that the more dominant negative momentum is resuming. At the moment, it isn't. So that is one way to look at entry opportunities. That this is what, in terms of what we look at. It could be another opportunity to add to potentially a position and so on. But this is a tool to help with decision making around entries. That's another part of your trade planning, is when the moment strikes, how do I know that something is telling me? What are my signals suggesting that I should enter? Well, if you're just doing it based on resistance levels, it might be as you hit certain price points. If you're doing it based on momentum or stochastics or oscillators, that's what these kind of tools are. Okay, but we also have, so for these shorter term time frames, if I'm looking at Boeing here, let's plug in Boeing. There we go. All right, so this is cool stuff. So if I was a near-term trader the next 1 to 5 days, what I would want to be looking for is, in this 2-hour chart, I would be wanting to look for the momentum to shift back negative. So at the moment, that if we're being strict to our method, and I'm a short-term or near-term trader next 1 to 5 days, I don't have a signal here. I don't have a valid trade setup. Why? Because our primary momentum indicators, so our reversal scout plus our Slim Ribbon, have turned positive. So as a near-term trader, the next 1 to 5 days, actually my directional bias would be positive. Again, what we were just talking about just a minute ago was the short-term, the 1 to 3 week outlook, which you can see here is still more on the negative side. So that's why understanding your time frame is so darn important. Because the initial question was, for an intraday trade. Well, for the intraday, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about for the near term, which we look at as the next 1 to 5 days. Let me show you how this could have set up for your near-term trader. So what we look for again is either the reversal scout or the Slim Ribbon to be positive, which would give us a sense that the near-term trend or the momentum is positive. Okay. And then we were going to look for a change in the slim ribbons in the reversal scout on our shortest term time frame. So we look at shortest term time frame for entry, and we look at the sort of the middle of the intermediate time frame here, so that near term trader 1 to 5 days for your directional bias. Again, this is my entry area for signals. This is my directional bias. This would be my position sizing. Again, this is for near term trader. So what we had on 2-2, we had a shift in the reversal scout positive. So let me see where we were on 2-2. All right, so on 2-2, we had a gap here. So our shift in ribbons happened on 2-1, but we are still, if we look at my crosshairs, we're still negative. So that's not a valid entry based on our method. We would want to see this shift positive. So we got this shift. Once this shift got positive, now we're looking in our shortest time frame for signals of entry opportunity. So you can see the slim ribbon PO here was starting to give those signals, which is very helpful. So here would have been a potential entry area for us, and you can see how the slim ribbon here, as it fans out, you have your 3 ribbons, right? Our 3 different ribbons, the 8 period, the 13, and the 21. How it tested that here, we had the slim ribbon PO that gave a signal, and then that could have been an entry. So that's why this multi-time frame analysis is so important in determining what that outlook period is you're looking for. So in this setup here, it's really interesting. Boeing was a valid bullish opportunity in that near-term time frame. Once we had the shift here, that confirmed that momentum condition, and it gave us a nice opportunity here. If I keep going, I mean, this is raise your hand if you think that 5 to 12 points is one heck of a trade, but it's really what the ribbon and the reversal scout gave us here. So that, and in terms of exiting, so now it's sort of the whole puzzle comes together. So let's say I was that near-term trader, 1 to 5 sessions. I got my signals for entry. What can I do? What would have been my exit? Well, look how cool this is. Well, here's where your resistance levels were. And we hit that resistance level and we came right off of it. So if I was that 1 to 5 day trader, I would have probably had this as my exit. So that's how you can use multiple time frames. And what's really interesting is as you get more experience with this as a strategic trader, you can trade in multiple time frames. You can build out your worksheets and you can say, for the short, the near term, I want to be long. Well, what's my strategy? Well, we just had it there. We are just able to look at Boeing and find a valid trade setup. And then through the daily planning, the daily chart planning, we were able to find our exit really nicely. That would have been an area in that near-term trade, 1 to 3 days where this would be an exit spot. Maybe I had 10 contracts or whatever the numbers are, just using easy round numbers, 100 shares, and you get out of half here and maybe get out of half over here. And then it could be an opportunity if you're a strategic trader at multiple timeframes, you could get short. So as a trader, you have to give yourself that flexibility. That's why if you understand what your method is and how you can identify bias in multiple timeframes, you can really use this information to be very flexible as a trader, and you won't get stuck. There's so many opportunities that present themselves on these charts. So I hope that was helpful. If you want to let me know if that helped to give you a sense of how you can use the worksheets, how you can use, good, some hands are going up here. Great. So again, all of our membership levels, it's all designed to be able to provide you with the tools for trade planning. And obviously the higher level you go, the more and more tools that you have at your disposal through our service to get a sense of direction, key price levels, timing with our cycle work. I mean, it's so key. If we look at, and because you're here, I'll let you see this. I think this is our newest one. For example, let's look at the Russell. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in here. So hopefully, based on this webinar so far in this last 10, 15 minutes, in terms of bias, look how great this is. So this is our slim ribbon again and our reversal scout. So level 2 members get to see our daily snapshot that has the reversal scout and the slim ribbon on there. Level 4 actually gets access to the actual charts. But you can see how the Russell turned positive way back in November, and the slim ribbon has not shifted since. The reversal scout gave you a couple warnings that there was potentially some weakness to watch out for, but our slim ribbon held. Now, if you look at the cycle timing, I mean, how awesome is that? It's again, as you try to build out your trade planning, you know, when do I want to go long? Where do I want to go long? If I'm a strategic option player, you know, what is my strike price? Why does it make sense to have that strike price? Well, that's why cycles are so great. You know, they're a measure of that energetic flow or the money flow, and they help give us a sense of when those reversals could take place, when those key lows can take place. And if you understand your bias, what the probability is that you then are going to challenge or take out the highs. Because that's what you really want to know as a trader is what kind of low do I have here? Right? Is this a low where the likelihood is we make a rally that goes towards making new highs, right? Or is this a low where, based on the condition, are we saying that once a rally occurs, it's going to fail and we're going to break down? So that's what we specialize in, and really is that understanding of the configuration of the pattern to understand the outlook in terms of new highs, new lows. What's going to be challenged next? And then what's that timing around it? So this timing was just impeccable. So, I mean, Slim's a pioneer in this. He has spent the last 40, nearly 50 years studying this. And this is all he does, you know, in terms of what was his career. And, you know, Arvi and I have been able to share in that understanding. And we're passing it along that to our members. And it's phenomenal. I mean, nothing's perfect. And we're not looking to be perfect. We're looking for probabilities. Okay, so that was a look at the Russell. And you can see here, so if we look at this swing high, swing low, so what's this, you know, where could there some sellers come into this thing? So I'm giving you a little extra bonus information here. So again, I'm using my swing low, swing high analysis, and I'm using my Fibonacci tools here. I'm looking at a key cycle low, key swing low, right? I got this minor cycle high here. And I come and I look at my low, my minor cycle low, and I say, okay, if I'm gonna swing trade off of this minor cycle low, since the Russell's still positive, right? What could be my target over the next 1 to 3 weeks? And you can see that where we have some areas indicated, or some cycle structure projections go. And this is just this is mechanical work that we do based on the structure of these patterns. There's no guessing involved for us. Now, it's an art and it's a science at the same time, because there's absolutely no certainty in the markets. The only certainty, as you all know, is the fact that the markets move. And through that movement, you can find patterns that form. So that's what we try to do, is understand those patterns. So with the Russell, it's telling you, look, it was telling you here, I'm still bullish. I didn't break down, right? I mean, a breakdown level in the Russell on the daily structure. Again, if I'm a near-term or intraday trader, it's a different world. That's a whole different discussion for us. What we're talking about right now are swing traders of 1 to 3 weeks, 3 to 8 weeks. The intraday is awesome because it opens up so many different opportunities. But what I'm talking about right now is from a short-term to intermediate time swing trading opportunity. And this is what that setup was, right? We had a low, we had still a positive cycle configuration. We have a low. How do I know this is still positive? Well, based on our method, what I'm doing is I'm making a draw here, and I'm saying, okay, look, it came in. Remember, we just talked about this. Key support runs typically the 38.2 to the 61.8. We went into the halfway point and we reversed up. Now, does it always work out like this? No. But if you have a method that gives you a higher probability of one thing happening over another, you will constantly put the odds in your favor. And I can tell you this from experience, which was sort of a hard experience to learn from. Slim has really helped me over the years with this, is understanding cycle configuration as well as the bias, the momentum bias. When you have a surprise in the markets, yes, you have surprises that can take a positive trend and turn it negative, and you could have a surprise in the morning that you know, the futures are down, you know, 7,500 in the S&P. Those are rare occurrences. They happen. We've seen it. But really, when you are in a trend and it's relatively earlier on in the trend, your surprises are in the direction of that trend. Okay, so that's what you see here. I mean, like, I can't believe, you know, sort of what's that self-talk that's going on in your head? I can't believe how this is happening. Wow, continuing. Well, you have to set that aside. You know, you listen to it, right? Because, you know, we all have good intuition, but at the end of the day, it's what the pattern is telling us that matters. That's it. And the pattern's been telling us that, as an example, the Russell's bullish. So I really, if I am a strategic trader who's looking at bias based on trend, momentum, cycles, I really don't have good logic to be short outside of for a few days if I'm going to really go after it. And I better be darn accurate if I'm going to try to fade this kind of strength. Now, we have tools that can help understand in our daily snapshot and our short-term and intraday information. You know, I'm going to say we're right up there, the best of the best at that kind of timing. But if we're just looking at the daily chart here, I really have no business being short. Now, as a long holder, where do I start thinking about, you know, maybe exiting some positions? And I'm not telling anyone, I'm just thinking out loud in terms of analysis. Where is that for me? Well, typically that would be, you know, up in your, you know, 61.8 minimum to 78.6. You start considering it. You know, this move was incredible that you had here, which probably pushed the you know, like 61.8 you have here. And so again, you know, if I'm looking at an exit or a place to potentially consider some shorts based on cycle timing. So let's just say I wanted to fade the market. It really, I mean, where does the logic start making sense? It starts to make sense, you know, up in these areas, as Slim has identified here. And when it makes sense, well, yeah, you want to do it when you're into the peaking phases or the declining phases. So if you're here, which we make a cycle low, I mean, the logic of our work would says to us, do not go short here. Now, unless the market would tell us, because that and I'll show you what that would mean. But based on cycle rhythms, momentum, I do not have a valid short side setup. This is our, you know, askSlim methodology here that I'm giving you. It would suggest that you still have long side opportunity. Now, when could I start considering that short side? Well, the logic of the theory suggests as you get into this peaking phase, which would suggest then that you're going to start struggling because the energy flow, the money flow is going to start fighting the natural tendency of the declining phase. And then the declining phase will likely take over. Now, there's times where these declining phases are small, but you want to know when those are. And this has been extending for a long time. And also we have a weekly cycle that is projecting a bottom or a declining phase, right? So that really starts in earnest in a couple, you know, about 10 days from now. So until then, there's still that risk to the upside that's reflected in these charts. And so if I wanted to consider the short side, it's not till later into here or some price levels. And we're not near those price levels yet. Now, what would change our mind? What would say that, you know what, something's changed? Well, I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom out just a little. Oh. Let me try this again. Okay. Again, swing low, swing high. Let's just imagine today's a high, even though it looks like it may not be. I'm going to do my drawings and I'm going to look at this. I mean, this would have to close below 2116 and break below. So that's a warning. This is a pretty much a breakdown confirmation if we violated this. And then if we took out the prior cycle low, that shifts the whole cycle structure negative then. So that would change the cycle structure forecast in terms of higher highs like you see here, right? So you can see that the automatic sort of cycle projection based on the prior cycle configuration would suggest higher highs. Again, think of that definition, right? Uptrends, downtrends. if this was to close and then break below the key cycle low, the structure then shifts where you're no longer looking for higher highs. You start to look for tests of lows and breakdowns of lows. So as I do this, as I analyze this information, I hear myself talking about this, right? And what good is it if now I want to execute a trade and I haven't documented any of it? Honestly, it's poor. It's poor on my part as a trader, as an analyst, if I'm not documenting it. So that's the beauty of the work we do, is we, in essence, sort of document on the charts, but it's not enough. You need to bring it over. Now you have these worksheets. Go back to the worksheet, so we'll close things up here. We got our trade plan, we got our worksheet, we can go into here, and we can map things out. We can identify the analysis that we're doing. We can fit when those things line up for us that we want to push to a trade execution. We can highlight that row, and we can go over to my trades, the my trades area, and we can follow those that are on our hot list. We can indicate the status of them, whether they've been executed. We can indicate whether they are winners or losers. Just phenomenal tools. Even if you're not level 2, level 3, level 4, as a level 1 member, you get access to these tools, which should help your trading altogether. All right, I'm going to see if there's any more questions here. There's a question regarding a recording. Would people like a recording of this? If you would, let me know. What I would look to do too, maybe, is put together what we call our minutes notes. Let me just show you what minutes notes are. I'm gonna go over to the dashboard. So on our level 2 members, they get access to our minutes notes. So for example, like market week minutes, if I jump into here, you get to go right to the areas that Slim analyzes. And when you click on it, it takes you right to that section in the video. So I'll look to maybe put together a minutes report of this webinar. And that way you can skip through, some of my dialogue and just get right to the sections you might find most helpful or interesting. Someone asked about alerts, sudden changes in the markets. So what we have is we have askSlim trade ideas. It's for level 3 and level 4 members. And with the trade ideas, there is a little bell here where I'm subscribed to notifications. So Arvi leads this area, does a phenomenal job. So with these, with these trade ideas, see, this is what we practice what we preach here at askSlim. So trade ideas is a representation of our methodology, as well as how we put our method into practice with our trade ideas. And what we do is Arvi takes a screenshot of his analysis at that time, and then he builds out a trade plan for it. And in addition to that, let me find Costco here, click on it. Here's our trading plan that we had for Costco. It was published on January 20th. It was satisfied on 2/1, so we indicated things are satisfied. So essentially what you would get is you get one trade idea a day, and then you get notified through our notification system when things are near the favorable entries and exits, and if something was to change and so on. But this is a great area to learn about our method. And with every one of these trades, Arvi puts together a video anywhere from like 3 to 5 minutes where he talks through his logic and why something is a short or a long. So it's fantastic. It's a fantastic way to understand our method and see us put our method into practice in terms of building out a trade idea plan and then move it to a trade idea. Really cool stuff. Someone asks, is there an auto alert to tell you when you're in range? Yes, you would get an auto alert. We're looking to build out more in the area of alerts, but right now that would be the only alerts that you would have is if you're level 3 and you get those alerts on trade ideas. If you're a level 4 and you subscribe to our, or you import our tools, there's automatic alerts that can occur. Okay, well, I hope this was incredibly helpful to everyone that attended, everyone that stayed on. I went fairly long on purpose because I think the most important part is really to get an understanding of how you build out a trade plan and then so importantly, how you can use our new tools, our workbench area. This is where I go to work. I mean, this is where I go to work as an analyst. I use all of our tools, and I can build out uh, my trade planning as I evaluate the charts that our team puts together. I mean, this stuff is built by traders for traders, right? I mean, Slim's been doing this for nearly 50 years, trained RV and I, and this is what we use to do our work and to share it with our members. So again, this was a great opportunity. I hope everybody enjoyed it. I hope you got out of it what you wanted from it. You can send me information at matt@askSlim.com. If you have comments, questions, concerns, whatever, if you'd like to see other kinds of webinars, if we want to do webinars, maybe every other week or so on trade planning, that's what we're thinking about doing. Picking a couple symbols, walking it through, talking about it, so that sort of really sinks in, and then using our tools for those purposes. So I had a good time. I hope you did as well. And take care, everybody. And I wish you the best.